myself, Katie Murphy online, Jeff Hansen person, Lola Perla, Scott Casey or not.
Scott is working.
Oh, Scott's here. Lisa Sanders, Casey Leahy, Jerry C. Kate Renters online and on the news. So next order of business is approval of the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda.
By Jeff. Is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so next order of business is approval of minutes from the December 18th, 2025 meeting.
I move we approve.
Second. By Lois, any discussion? All in favor?
All right.
Minutes are approved. So that brings us to our first public comment. I would like to just take a quick moment prior to letting the public speak. It is not my place to announce departures, but I think it is my place to offer gratitude on behalf of the board that this is Amber's last meeting with us. So on behalf of the board, I wanted to give you this. Oh. Thank you so much for everything you've done. You have kept us honest for many years.
Madam Chair,
Oh, yes,
if I may say something.
yes.
I wanted to recognize Amber as my for the long time on the board that I was privileged to work with her. She was extraordinarily correct in many ways. The one thing I remember is her insistence that when board members made motions that were not well thought of, were confusing, and didn't really speak to the issue, she insisted that the minutes will reflect exactly what it is you want to do. And she was very consistent with that, and I've always appreciated it. And I wanted to say thank you and wish you well.
Thank you very much, Joe. Thank you, Joe. Thank you all.
And that's it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for coming. All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Joe.
Bye.
Good to see you. All right. Is there anyone in the public that wishes to speak at this time? I don't see any hands up. Okay. All right. So that's going to move us straight into administrative reports. We'll start with superintendent's report.
So the written report is in the packet. The one piece that I do want to play up a little bit, put more of the public awareness, is that next week we'll be having the two open forums, one for the Logo Mount Holly side, one for the Green Mountain side. Green Mountain Open Forum will be at Cavendish Town Elementary School. It'll be on January 20th at 6 p.m. The smaller part of that conversation is really, hopefully the board approves the budget tonight. It's talking with folks a little bit about tax rates and things like that. But it's also to begin kind of conversations with the community about Act 173, or excuse me, Act 73, and about what the potential impacts of that means. The idea being is that there are enrollment requirements currently under the law. In having the community kind of start to take a look at all of our schools. This is what our enrollments are by class, by grade at this point in time. This is what the law says that, we're supposed to do. Community, what are your best ideas and kind of how to address this and start that conversation rolling. So the more people that we can get at these events to be able to have these discussions, the better at some point in time the solution that we're going to have to put into place is going to be. One of the pieces, and this is a good segue, that we talked about at the last board meeting, was that Act 73 a lot of the requirements around it have not been well defined yet. Like when it's talking about class enrollments, is that an absolute or is that an average? You know, was one of the examples that we used last time. Interestingly enough, we got a message from the Secretary of Education in the last 2 days that basically said they were pulling together a committee to start to work on those definitions. So there's a whole lot of things that they have to define, you know, like, you know, what is excessive travel if there was redistricting, things like that. And so hopefully we're going to get a little bit more clarity relatively soon that comes from that committee, and I'll keep the board and the community apprised of what we learn as that happens. In addition, I think one of the things that I do want to touch on, which is also the curriculum report a little bit, right? That's written, that's in your folders. But just to remind folks that in March, state testing begins, which is a month earlier than it typically has happened in the state. For some reason, last year they moved it up a month, which makes, you know, getting longitudinal data and being able to compare from year to year hard to do. But the reason I'm bringing it up is because it's important for the community to recognize that this testing is important. It is a requirement for the state to be able to continue receiving federal funds. For some reason in the state of Vermont, there's a culture of believing that it's not a critical thing. And so it's been hard to get to kids to actually, you know, kind of sit down, take the test, show up that day, take the test seriously when we have it. We're supposed to have 95% participation. That's the cutoff. Supposedly there's supposed to be consequences if that doesn't happen. In terms of the testing itself, we need the parents to really connect with their students, with their children, and talk with them about taking it seriously, trying their best. Because one, that data reflects how well we're doing as a district to the outside world, because it's one of the first things people see when they are investigating a district. But number two, it's providing us feedback that we can use to improve our practice, right? You know, if we're getting data back and the kids have worked really hard and there are areas that it's really clear that they're struggling, we know that when we get that information, we can kind of sit down and say, okay, you know, in terms of what we're doing in the classroom, what can we change in the next year to make sure that we're addressing this and kids are learning these important skills. So I really want to put that message out to parents in the community. The testing is important. It's important if we can get your help in communicating to the students to do their best and to take it seriously. I think that's about it. Unless there's questions or thoughts on anything. Either in the report or what we talked about.
No. Any questions for me? Okay, so under that report was also a board member election reminder.
Yeah, I'm also gonna send this sheet around. So we went back and have been looking through the old minutes and whatnot to try to get this completely up to date. So on this sheet is not only the years that folks are up for election, but also like subcommittees and things that folks are on. I'm going to send this around in a minute. If you can take a look at it, if you think that there's a mistake there, just mark it for us. And what we'll do, if it's obvious based upon what you've written, we'll correct it. If it's not, I'll reach out and I'll talk with you directly, and we'll make sure that this is perfect the way that it should be. But for this current year, election year 2026, the folks that we have that are up for re-election are Rick Alexander, Jeff Hance, Scott Kendall, Kate Lamphere, Jerry Ucci, Donovan Nichols. Did I say Ucci right?
It's
You see, I've been practicing.
Is that, I gotta get the Italian pronunciation correct. But those are the folks, and I'll pass this around. The folks can take one.
Okay. All right, so that brings us to our principals report. If you remember last meeting, we tabled the Green Mountain so that John could be here. So if you'd like to.
I apologize for.
No, don't apologize.
We had a Christmas tournament, so I was at the other end of the building. So we have two potential projects. The first one is looking at putting a sign, at the front entrance, a digital sign that, will help do a lot of things for us. You know, put a lot of information down on the main road without causing hopefully any accidents, people reading it. It will promote our school, hopefully. And it's been one thing that I really honed in on, and I know there's a lot of stuff that you have to do before you can even think about doing it. So, Randy Miles, who's a local community member, has been supporting us on that cause. He has gone to 2 or 3 meetings over the different boards you have to go through. We've jumped the first 2 hurdles. Now we're on to the last, the DRB in the next, I think it'd be February meeting. And if we get approval, then we've cleared all the legality pieces, and then we can start talking about what it might cost and what do we want to do with it. So that's where we're at so far with that one. The softball field, I cannot take the glory. I have to give that glory to Mr. Parra. When I first came in, he got a great grandiose idea when the last softball field got washed out. That at the foot of our driveway down at the bottom there, to take out a few of the shrubs and create a whole new softball field for Green Mountain down there. A few community members recently started talking about it. Chris Sinnett is one of them he's big on supporting those that ever we do. And he started putting out signs out the back, and he did go through top of it, didn't just do it on his own. He's raised about $4,000 already towards some sort of sporting project. He did say it was for softball. So again, we're in the seed stage of that because we had the community members, we have a grant writer, so it's not a big committee at the moment, but we had a couple of meetings when we talked about it, and the whole I think I put it in the last report, but it's the potential title for it is called the Race for Home Plate Project. And it's a partnership between Green Mountain Union High School and dedicated residents, business owners in the towns of Chester and Andover, coordinated by Chester Andover Softball Committee, which is the committee we're started. The goal is to build a dedicated softball field that closes the gap in athletic opportunities for girls. This project will create a safe, well-equipped space for practice of games and community events, strengthening youth sports, promoting equity, and supporting the next generation of athletes. So that's where we're at right now. It's as I say, that is in the planting seed stage right now. So just want to keep everybody informed, so it's not going to just appear in the next months or year. And but he said don't walk that. So if anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to answer what I can. And in softball, I think, and Todd can verify this better than me, but the future's looking bright for softball. The numbers are there. They're starting to come back. So
Is that digital sign, so it's already gone through the planning commission, you said, that's the DRB. Is this something that if it's approved, you're definitely gonna do, or?
I'd like to, but again, this board would be heavily involved in it.
Okay.
Looking at cost and what the logistics are, and we'd have to put it out to bid and whatnot. I guess I'd like us to do it. I think it would announce a school. So.
Yeah, I thought the point that a couple of the folks at the select board meeting that they made about, the high school is so far back, that you can't even tell it's there.
It's hard to read.
Agreed.
Neat. Any questions for John?
It was, when we brought up this, the softball field a couple of years ago, it was about 100,000.
200,000.
It was 200 or more.
Can I throw something in there? Well, and I used to play men's league softball down across the road. The Irene washed out field. And I used to work for Colbert Materials and I went to them and asked them if they would rebuild the field. They did it for free as a tax write-off. And they would do the same thing for a school, so it might be worth asking some of these big companies to do that. And all they ask is for a promotion, you know, billboard up saying field was donated by whatever. You know, and I know Todd and I talked about this, I know Palmer Goodrich at one point talked about leveling it all out. So
Yeah, I think there's lots of local companies who.
you could cut a lot of that cost and with just signs promoting this.
And there are the lady, Sonia, who is working with us, for the grant writing piece, she's very confident that the bigger, you know, like M&T Bank and Acela, those people will give us, you know, 25, 30 grand each and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
when you start getting donations like that,
Yep.
that helps get it all together.
Oh, yeah.
So, and the thing I like about this is it's going to involve everyone, school, board, community, parents, kids, you know, just everybody have a hand in it. So if it does come to fruition, you know, it's there and it'll be there forever. So, yep. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Nothing more, going to facility report.
Here comes the best.
Okay.
So, thoughts not wrong, it's been perplexing start for the holidays and over the break. At Chester Andover, Lane alluded to it, the state sent a legal team and a different environmental crew to test there. They picked a few schools around the state. And this is all have to do with the class action suit against Monsanto. They're testing schools that didn't test high or tested at absolutely nothing. Chester Andover is one of them. They picked it. I pushed back saying that I felt we were a target. Our school supervisory union, it seems like we're constantly in the limelight and not getting much help from the state. After it was explained to me from the AOE and a bunch of other people that are a lot higher than me, when they came, they were there for 4 days, 10, 12 hours a day, did the testing, we have not heard the results. And again, that's nothing to do with us, it's got to do with the class action law, so I mean, it does have something to do with us because we're in it, but it's statewide. And it was paid all for them, nothing from us except for the time I spent with them. The FEMA project is moving forward, Cheryl and I come to an agreement that as long as they're telling us it's moving forward, it's not moving backwards, we will feel better when we see money in our account. And then we will move forward with that, right? And I know that sounds very vague, but that's where we're at right now. I hate to keep telling the board and community that, you know, things are happening, but so when the money hits our pocket, then we'll be happy. Chester, Cavendish, we got a water problem and it's coming from the town. The town is telling Emma that the water is good, but we're looking into some options right now, to see what we're gonna do there. I don't wanna say too much more about that until we get some different points of view on this, because the town is telling us that the water's okay, so we're not ruling out anything, but it's just so the board is aware, right? There's some staining to the water and, the town is telling Emma that it's good to go. All right, GM, we meet once a week with the DEC, the health department, sometimes the AOE shows up. Tomorrow's a big day, I think they're gonna tell us how much money we're getting. That's what I'm hearing. Again, they could tell us we're getting $1 or 10 million until I see that money, until Cheryl says, yep, the money hit the account, I'll believe that when I see it, right? But what I'm hearing, they are gonna tell us tomorrow that they're gonna give us some funding. What it is, how it gets appropriated, what it gets used for, that's all gonna be up in the air, and those are gonna be questions I'll have for them tomorrow. All right, now the really bad news. And none of these are related, so I'm gonna try to relay this in the best time frame that I can.
These,
Yeah. What's that?
You said these.
Yes, oh yeah. So the good news is that the new alarm system was working. Got a phone call 5:30 in the morning, I think 2 days before break, and the fire department was here. CO detector went off in the boiler room. Come to find out, it was a misfire in one of the boilers. Happens, the fresh air intake didn't suck it out fast enough. The detector went off and the fire department showed up. So it's supposed to happen. They opened the doors, no danger to anybody. They cleared it out. They retested it. It was all fine. Think problem solved. 2 days later, unrelated, two pressure relief valves failed at the same time. Our boiler guy is very good. We use him at Ludlow and at Cavendish. Never seen it before. The flooded boiler room with water and glycol. So we came in, we called in, both boilers are down, not sure if we're gonna have school. We scramble, we get him out of bed, get him here, get it all under control, get one boiler up and running, the other one will not refire. So we're like, and it's the newer one out of the two that won't refire. So now we're scratching, and it's one of those days when it's, 8 below zero, and now we need both boilers, so. It was a mess. It was a mess. I'm not gonna say how many gallons were on the floor, but enough that it flooded the boiler room, right? A couple inches of water and white. Now we're dealing with the smell, right? And everybody has their own opinion, and it's, we won't get into that. So 2 days later, that was on Christmas Eve day that happened, which was the last day of school, which was a half a day. So now I'm just like freaking out that something's gonna happen. Come in 2 days later, flooded again. And this time it's a cracked cell on the old boiler. This is the fourth cell that's cracked on that. At this time of year, it's unfortunate. If it would have been, even March, it would have been like, okay, we're gonna power through this, and we're gonna decide what we're gonna do, but we can't do that. We cannot keep up with one boiler, just won't do it. Now, I missed the part because the newer boiler was down. We had to beg and plead. We ended up going steal a part off of somebody's unused boiler in Hanover, New Hampshire, and bringing it back to fix the Badurus, the newer of the two, which is a 2010, until we could get the cell changed in the HB Smith. So, and again, nothing correlation, no one caused this. It wasn't a chain reaction. They're all individual events. So those are all up and running. Thank God for available parts, and we got a cell, and it came in, and it's up and running. At a cost, the total for those two events for those are $53,300. Nope, I take that back. That's wrong. The total with another problem that we had is gonna be $53,361.60. Get back to that. School gets back in session. Boilers are up and running. First day back. Or maybe it was the second day. First or second, John, on the wood shop problems. First day back. We get a call from a sub. It's not even a wood shop teacher. There's water coming in through the ceiling. So I run down the second floor, thinking I'm gonna find where what was it? It was a unit ventilator. There's two of them. Extremely, not as big as the ones in the gym, but they're fairly decent size. The core just came unglued, and it's just dumping water and glycol. All problems unrelated to the other. None of them. So we hurry up, get the water shut off up there. No damage, thank God. I mean, we lost a little Home Depot belt sander. I mean, Mike Better, wood shop teacher, was not upset about that at all. Got that all cleaned up. Got a tech company in, got a price for a new one, got that ordered, should be here and installed February break. So the total for fixing the boiler room to where it is now, both boilers back up and running, and that new unit ventilator in the wood shop is $53,361.60. And I'm asking the board to let us use capital improvement money for that, or I'll have to deficit spend out of my budget. And we're only, we're 5.5 months left into the budget season. So I am asking for that money to cover those expenses.
Is the total amount?
$53,361.60.
How much thought went into the boiler?
So the three previous cores were somewhere between 8,000 and 10,000. I asked, I talked to Cheryl, and I asked Angie to put it together for me. We put right around 50,000 a little bit more. The past 4 years, we're averaging somewhere around $10,000 a year.
a core a year.
So, yeah, well, not quite, close, but it's close. And then this is, on some unrelated, some pumps and some, miscellaneous things that we can't handle that a tech company has to go in and take care of. So it's around $10,000 to $11,000 a year right now, that we're putting into that. And this is a tough question, right? I just happened to be talking with Scott about something unrelated, and this was right in the middle of this mess. Like, can't stress to you enough how this was chaos here for the better part of 6 days. When you're dealing with glycol water nonstop, this is a mess. So do we think about changing that HB Smith boiler? So I'm on the phone, right? I'm on the phone and I'm calling
Tell
the guys
them
from,
what year it is.
it's a 1988.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm calling EI, our guys, and I'm like, it's not, that may or may not be that, but I'm like, just give me a number. I have no idea. Give me a number. He said 250 to 400,000, somewhere in that range to pull that old boiler out, put a brand new one in and change the valve that we've been talking about since the bought. Do we do that? Or do we continue to hope that the rest of that's a 14 cell boiler? So we've changed 4. Do we hope that we're not gonna lose one every year? Or, here's the troublesome part, right? I went home and I prayed and I thanked God that those happened on school days. If that would have happened, pour would have broken the wood shop at 10 o'clock at night when nobody was here, who knows, we would have had a fire. Because it was dumping onto electrical outlets, an electrician coming in, check it all out, everything was fine. Ones in the boiler room, if those would have happened, I try to come every Saturday and Sunday, just pop in. If I'm home, just pop in just to lay eyes, but if nobody would have been here for 14 or 16 hours, guaranteed the gym would have been flooded. Guaranteed, that would have ran right out, right down into the gym, right through the kitchen, everything.
So we don't, and I think this is, we kind of touched a little bit on this when we were talking about it. We don't have a modern control system for those boilers
We do not.
that would
No.
tell us when those things happen.
No, so the controls, this was not funny, just so when Bill was here, Bill says, well, there's controls, there's Honeywell controls. I'm like, well, I've been here almost 10 years. I have no controls. There's no digital controls here. There's one for one classroom. We had some grant money we had to put in, and that's the only classroom we have control over. So he's like, well, there's controls right here. Come to find out, ARC put them in 2010 when they put the Badur's boiler in. So we called them. They don't even know what the username and password is.
What is the tech who works on the boilers? What's his recommendation? What does he think about the old one?
So this isn't gonna sound right. This is his words. I tend to agree with him. They're pretty bulletproof, the boiler itself, until it gets to this point, right? It gets to this point. So I'm asking him, why now? Why are they're cast? Veins, why are they cracking out? He has an idea. I happen to disagree with him, but I don't know. I just disagree with him. He's saying that our return water is too cold and it's cracking them. We haven't changed anything with that. So that's been that way for 20 years or so. So why is it age? I don't know. I don't know what it, I'm really not sure to answer your question here. I don't know, but they are cracking it at a fairly regular interval, right? I get it with everything that's going on in the state and the things that they're talking about with public schools. Is it the right thing to put a new boiler in? Do we take our chances and, keep putting money into this one? That's a decision, for you guys. My recommendation would be if you had the money, capital improvement, who knows when all this is, any decisions with the state's gonna be made, in 10 years, could be 15 years, who knows?
I lean towards more of fix the ancient boiler, but
Fix it or replace it.
I replace it.
Yeah. So I could get into this, and that board meetings are long enough. I think we should put an overhead door, small overhead door where our fresh air intake is, because those cells are, 2,500 pounds a piece, it'd be a lot easier if they could wheel everything out, wheel a brand new one in, change that valve that we've already talked about that, and put some controls in. Some very basic controls, just so if I'm home, I can get a notification on my phone or my computer and I can race over here.
Can't you get the controls? I mean, not just for the not for the boilers themselves, but you can put temperature controls that go right to your phone and
Right,
in that room for
or flood
50,
sensors.
60
Okay.
bucks.
Yeah, they're very reasonable. Yeah, they're reasonable. Yeah, but it takes, takes some hardware, programming, but yes, the answer is yes.
I have a few
Yeah.
customers,
Yeah.
boiler rooms there. We have flood sensors
Sure.
linked to my phone.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
I mean, the new boiler is gonna save money on fuel oil.
Fuel.
so I have a very good friend of mine that owns a company that's, EEI on steroids out of Philadelphia. And he said, you can buy a brand new HP Smith boiler with a power flame burner, exactly what we have now, but brand new. And I said, how much more efficient? It'd be ridiculous. I'd hate to tell you the percentage, but new things, new insulation, and they put water jackets around them to keep the jackets heated so you don't have this
They're
problem
not
with water.
casted,
Right.
so you don't have cracking.
Given the age and a little bit of research that I did, the efficiency minimum of 35%.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
lot. That's
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a lot.
So if I'm clear, you're asking the board tonight
Yeah.
for 53,361.60 to cover the costs of the.
Yeah.
So it's already occurred.
Correct.
And then are you looking for permission to start investigating
If
this?
that's the recommendation for the board, from the board, if that's the direction the board wants to move, yes. If we're gonna waver a little bit, I hate to go out and start talking to people saying, this is something we want to move on, we'd have to put this out to bid or talk about a performance contract with, EEI or Johnson Controls or whoever, we should put that out to bid. Maybe I'd have to talk to Cheryl and see if EEI, we're still under contract with EEI. I don't even know.
I think we would need, not to jump the gun, but I think we would need information from you to have that discussion.
Sure.
So that we're.
Yep.
Right.
Yep, if that's the direction we want to go, then I can get a more clear number. I don't know if it'd be a hard number, but it'd be a more clear number instead of that range.
200,000 swing, yeah.
Right, right. And I was okay with that. I didn't know. And
Yeah,
he was like, yeah, it all depends on a lot of variables, so.
Could I make a request? Could we do 3 different companies prices?
We
When we go out to bid, we will.
would, right? We get 3 when it went out to bid. Yeah, for sure. I would like to be able to just, and I'm not gonna, I would ask the guys at EI, give me a more hard number.
Yeah.
Give me. We're gonna hire you to do this job. How much? And he's gonna be good about it. He's gonna give it to us.
Sure.
He'll know that it's not his job because it's gonna go out to bid.
Right.
One way or the other, whether it's through a performance contract or we do the GC ourselves.
So do you think you could have some of that information for us by the next meeting, or is that too quick?
I will try. Okay, I don't want to say absolutely yes, but I will definitely try.
So 1 to 2 months.
Yeah. Yeah.
Any discussion?
I was gonna make a motion.
Oh, I just wanted to make sure, is everybody kind of thinking,
I
we
think we
need
should
some more
ex-
information, I just didn't want to
Yeah.
direct it independently.
Right in 88, that's already starting to break down.
There's, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, there's 411,000 in capital.
Currently, but we have the 400,000 from this year, and then we have another 357, 395 that the voters moved.
So it's bigger, even bigger.
Okay,
Seven,
so we've got
seven.
plenty of capital, I think we just need some
And
information.
last year, didn't we put it aside for a boiler?
Well, that's why, that was the discussion last year. I got a plan for this, so at least you don't have to go to bond.
Right.
That was the goal.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
I mean, just saving the fuel will be.
Yeah, it's gonna be,
And again, I don't want, we're not talking apples to apples, but the boiler at Mount Holly, we pulled out that oil fire, and we can't do that here because ideally I'd like to go propane, but this is more of an extensive
Yeah.
project, right? So we're gonna stick with oil, but they saved, that was a ridiculous amount of money. It was $10,000 to $15,000 just a few.
35%.
It was crazy.
Kate,
It was just.
just her hand up.
Kate?
Thanks. Hi, Todd. I appreciate kind of the desire to get a new boiler and would love for that to be a thing for us. And I think it is sensible and logical. And I certainly would like to see how much money we're getting from the state for PCBs. I think that that is an essential fix. I think that I would, before making a decision on a boiler, I think I want to see all of the issues that need to be repaired. I just don't want to make a hasty decision on such a huge purchase. So, I guess I'd just like to see what are all the other big purchases or big issues that might be coming down the pipe before we make a decision on the boiler.
Well, we'll have those, I will have that number to Lane tomorrow, if they give it to me. I'm hearing I'm getting a solid number from them tomorrow. And as soon as I get it, I'll be ringing Lane's off.
One quick question for you. If the old boiler goes down completely, how long can the school live along on one boiler?
It's a good question. So we've noticed, so we went with, he was telling me 3 weeks and I was getting nervous. I'm looking at the 10-day forecast.
Yeah.
If it's 10 degrees above zero, we can survive with that one boiler. It will hold 125, 30 degrees. It works its tail off to do
Yeah, it's
that.
working hard.
Right? If it gets below that, that temperature starts dropping and then the heat, as much as it varies here in school, varies even more. We start getting air problems and we start getting all kinds of other issues that just, it compounds itself.
Right.
We're lucky at that point that the building stayed about 50 degrees. By the time we got that running, get the other one up and running, and the other one, the reason we found out about these controls was the Badurus boilers never, ever since 2010 ran on high fire. They sent those controls to back up the HV Smith, and because we can't get into it, we have to find a manual switch inside the boiler to switch it if it gets too cold and run out of high fire. So we're a little bit up against it, but we're making it work, right? We've made it work. We've got through it. I think this is the right choice for us, is to explore.
Yeah, sure.
Not do it, but explore and find out where we're at. And time is of the essence, right? I know we're in the middle of winter, but for a project like this, by the time you decide how much, approve it, hire somebody to go out to bid, hire somebody to do it, and that's gotta be like, down. We gotta start moving on this, or it's not gonna be ready for next heating season.
Got it.
Okay, go ahead, Cheryl.
Clarify the 411,000 is correct. 400 was already. paid for.
Okay.
I move that we approve $53,361.60 to come from capital improvement to cover the repairs.
It's second.
Is there any further discussion on the motion? Okay, all in favor? Opposed?
Okay, thank you. I have one last thing.
I just had.
Okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no,
No,
go
no, I
ahead.
just had a question about the water. If you.
Okay, so this is good news. If anybody doesn't know, I'm coaching our JV and varsity boys basketball team this year. We're at Grace Christian. They play at the Bennington Sports Center. Anybody ever been there? Anybody here? That's a hole in Bennington. It's like a Hoosiers gym. 3 bleachers high, places packed. We're there on Friday night and we win, and we're coming off the court after the game. And this guy comes up, and you never like to see a parent coming. And I don't know this person, right? He's on a mission. I'm like, oh, Mike Groner's with me. He's helping me out. And I'm like, oh, this in my head. I'm like, this can't be good. He goes, so you don't know me? I'm not a fan of Grace Christian, not a fan of Green Mountain. He says, I just travel around St. Vermont all over watching high school basketball. He said, I've been doing this for 20 years and I've never seen a group of kids with as much respect that play the game the way they're supposed to.
That's
than your
great.
kids.
That's great.
So not a credit, this is a credit for our kids, right? We hear so much, all over the country about our youth and, how much trouble we're in. But I ran into that locker room as fast as I could to tell those kids that. And they were more happy about that than they were about winning. So good news anyways after all that. Any more questions?
Yeah, it's a question about the water. So I lived in Cavendish for a while. And is it the manganese that's the issue again? Is that?
Emma?
Yeah, it's something, I don't know exactly, but it's a sediment from the usage that prior to, I think maybe it was like a decade ago, they updated the system. It's similar and they're contributing it to, it's more so in Proctorsville than in other areas in Cavendish, to my understanding.
Okay.
And contributing it to more, over a lot of, homeowner, more people in the
Using it.
community using it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's sediment that's coming through. It's not like rust stains or, I just want to make sure I understand what it's, okay.
My understanding is it's the sediment, because if the flow rate is fairly low, the sediment will collect in the pipes. And then when the use is high, like when they flush out the systems, right, you get a lot of turbidity that disturbs it. So if that is the case, if that's really what's going on, eventually, if they've got high use and a lot of turbidity, because of the high use, it'll eventually clean the sediment out of the system. That should be rough.
Okay. They did clear up when we went through, I think they flushed something. It went through. I just wanted to make sure if it was the same issue or if it was a whole different issue.
Correct me if
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, I just
Oh.
want to say it's bad down in Cavendish Village too, and I've never seen it this bad. It is bright yellow water and smells. It's terrible.
And it means filters have to be replaced.
Right. More frequently.
And we had talked about, at least let's get some bottled water.
Yeah, we're looking into today getting a bubbler system, renting bubbler system to get drinking water delivered.
So it is a viable option, just, I mean, because now Holly's been doing this forever with the PFAS problems they had there. Not ideal, but it is very doable. It is very doable.
correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't there a meeting in Cavendish last night or this week in regards to that? And did I see correctly a price tag of $2 million to remedy?
I don't know anything about that one.
No.
I didn't hear it.
There was a select board meeting this week, but
Yeah, I think they mentioned that. And I saw it like right before the meeting tonight that the town is looking for $2 million to remedy. I could be wrong, but I read that through. Yeah.
Thank you. All right. anything
Everybody
else?
good? Nope, I'm good. No
Thank you,
more
Rick.
questions? Thank God. Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, Todd.
Did I- Just quickly, think anybody's gonna need me after this? If not, I'm gonna exit.
Exit.
We're good. Thank you.
All right, the curriculum report, leave in your packets, is there anything to add to it?
Yeah, we talked about the state testing and the importance of hopefully get the parents on.
All right. Carol,
Some financials in your, we're below the 50% mark, which I would expect to see at this time of year, so that's always good. Nothing new to report on that, looks to me has some. We'll jump into budget.
always fun.
Actually, because it kind of relates, because it has to do a little bit with money. There is a House bill being sponsored, 542, that relates to the PCDs. And so there's a panel tomorrow that a bunch of us are going to be a part of. What they're seeking to do is to basically reverse the law and say, we're done testing. Okay, you're done testing, but any schools that have been identified, you have a responsibility to fully remediate. The bill actually looks like a really good one. I think, especially given the expense that the state is starting to realize that this is going to cost, that it will probably pass. The one thing when Todd and I were talking a little bit earlier is the appropriations portion of it. The state of Vermont has a habit of requiring things of the legislature, but then the legislature just decides not to appropriate funding to see it done. And so that's the thing that a bunch of us are going to be pushing for tomorrow, is to add a clause in there that it is mandatory appropriation.
Great.
So the hope is that because of that, we're going to see some motion on the PCP side of things. All right, kind of feels like I've done this 3 times in the last meeting, a little bit with different boards, and give me just a second so I can swim. So I do always start with this, and this is more for the community because I know the board's up to date on this. The folks will have like a land acknowledgement before they speak in some areas of the country. This is our budget acknowledgement. And the important thing to recognize, especially for the community members that may be watching, is that local control in terms of school budgets, we do have some. We get to determine what our budget is. Beyond that, in terms of tax rates, we have no control over what our tax rates are, as long as we are below the excess spending threshold, which we are, which is a good thing. One of the ways to kind of think about this is that the state basically takes in the amount that each school budget votes in across the state.
Elaine, I'm just gonna interrupt just a second. I'm gonna have to head home, sick kiddo, nothing,
Sorry.
nothing major emergency, but Nina's mama, so.
I'm sorry.
Right.
It totals up all those requests, and then it divides that amount across all the taxpayers in the state. So in terms of Green Mountain, we are 0.6% of the entire education funds, which means that 99.4% of what impacts our tax rates is not within our control. Just to kind of put it in perspective. So again, you have control over what your budget is, but in terms of what your local tax rates are, you do not have control over. You could do extreme cuts to your budget and you might save a penny in terms of your tax rates. So people hear that like, oh my God, it's going to be bad. No, it's actually a little bit better than we talked about last time. Current budget, the budget that we are living with this year is right here. It's 18.6 million. The proposed budget, the budget that we are recommending, which is a level service budget for next year, would be 19.3, so a $714,000 increase. This is basically a 3.84% increase in spending over the previous year, which is actually pretty darn good. And I gotta do a shout out to the other districts. I've been seeing where their increases are in terms of expenses, and they're all somewhere in the 2% to 6% range. So again, when people get their tax bills this year, we're going to talk a little bit about CLA. That's where it's coming from. It is not coming from what the educators are doing across the state of Vermont. By comparison, inflation in New England year over year for the past 2 years has been around 3.1%. Currently this month it's 4%. So right in that range in terms of what inflation is. Changes. Greens mean cuts. Reds mean that this is where additions are happening. So the big one is special education. Next board meeting, I was actually going to talk about it tonight, but I figured it would make the meeting a bit too long as part of the superintendent's report. We have begun the study about special education in the district, and so we'll have a good discussion about the students that are sent to outplacements, which costs the total TSU about 2.4 million a year, and start to have some discussions around that and some of the things that we're learning and some of the things that we might be able to do, because there are some ideas that are coming from the data. The contingency money, that was based upon where we figured the negotiations were going to end with both the teachers as well as the Green Mountain support staff. We talked about the fact earlier that the federal government has been cutting funding. And one of the big areas for us is this Title II. Title II is money that we use for professional development, primarily for teachers, right? It's how we maintain best practice, making sure that what's happening in the classroom is what's best for kids. And so what we're going to do is, because of some of that loss, we've built some money back into the budget to cover it, to make sure that those activities can still continue. A little bit of this money is for the non-bargaining staff, right? The teachers, the support staff, they have a union that works with school boards to negotiate, what their changes in salary should be from year to year. The non-bargaining staff do not. And so what we do, especially now that your policy governance, is we go out, we take a look at what the comparables are across the state of Vermont. We have that data. We take a look at where our staff are, and then we try to raise them up to make sure they're in that comparable range. So some of the money is due to that. The cost of food has gone up. So the amount that we're going to need to subsidize our food services is going up by 111,000. And then the other piece, it's a bad thing and it's a good thing, is right. You had 415,000 previously subsidizing your budget from surplus. That builds a cliff when that goes away. Well, this is the cliff year. You're dealing with it this year because you don't have it to do again. But at least now that you're dealing with it, it'll be out of the way. That kind of a normative state. Some gains that we had previously, we had set aside in the previous budget, 170,000 anticipating a loss of some pretty significant grants. We didn't see all those losses, so we don't need to ask for that amount to cover for them. The Chester Andover Elementary School, the bond on the roof has been paid off, so it's 250,000 that doesn't have to be planned for in terms of those payments. And then last year we had the driver's education car in the budget. The car was purchased. We don't need to buy another one, so it comes out this year. So the savings side of things. And again, stop me if there's questions along the way. That's great. Reserve and surplus. So right now in capital reserve, we just talked about this, there was currently 411,000. And then what happened at the end of the last school year, right? The surplus and the reserves are funny because they crossed 3 school years. There was 626,000. 415,000 was used to subsidize the current budget that we are in right now, right? That's the money you don't have. That's the cliff that's there that we're going to be making up in this next budget round. And then you voted this amount into the facilities reserve that left things a little bit short-handed. Some of it was due to the amount that went into the facilities reserve, but a lot of it was due to increased special education costs. So we ended the year a little bit in the red, but that will be covered by the end of this year with expected surpluses.
Plan.
That's the thing that people care about the most. Our tax rates. So I've broken this down in terms of actual tax rates because some people view it in those terms. I've also talked about it in terms of cost per $100,000 of property value. So what you see here, this is the tax rates in the current year that we are living in right now, 25, 26. So in Baltimore, the tax rate is $1.28. That means for every $100 of value of your property, you pay $1.28, right? So what the change will be with this budget that we are recommending, that tax rate will go from 129 to 139. So for every $100 of assessed value of your property, you'd pay $1.39. The change is 11 cents. It's an 11-cent increase in the tax rate. 5 cents of it is due to what's happening in terms of changes in the education fund, right? Because it's we're impacted by what happens across the state. 6 cents of it is actually due to changes in CLA, which we'll talk a little bit about what that means in a minute. So Andover, right, they reassessed. So the changes are actually in the positive for them. They're actually going to see an 81-cent savings per $100 of assessed value next year. Yeah, until next year, and then it'll reverse. You are correct. That tends to be the pattern. 28-cent increase for Chester, 34-cent increase for Cavendish. And again, the big thing to realize with these changes is, right, here's the education contribution to that. You know what's happening in terms of changes to the education fund. This is what's happening because of changes in people's property values. So it's the property values that are the big story about tax rates. And that's been the case for the last couple of years. The state, we had kind of touched on this before, threw an extra term into the formula called the statewide adjustment last year, which hid CLA and the impact of it, so that it was hard to break out what was being caused by, education funding changes and what was happening in terms of people's property values. But last year, probably 2/3 to 3/4 of what people experienced in terms of the tax rate changes was due to CLA. Common level of appraisal is used to make sure that people are paying taxes on the fair market value of their homes every year. So the town has assessed your property at a certain amount, we'll say it's $140,000. They don't reassess every year. And so what ends up happening is the value of your property changes after the assessment is done. And so what this CLA does is it adjusts the tax rates to make sure that you are paying on the full value of your property. So Mount Holly, I'm using them as the example because this is kind of where they're at. Their CLA is 56%. It means that without that adjustment, they would only be paying taxes on 56% of the market value of their properties. And the state wants to make sure that you're paying taxes on all 100%. Shocker. And so what the CLA does is it's an adjustment to make sure that they're paying taxes on that additional 44% of that. Okay, everybody pays the fair market value. That's what equity is in terms of the state of Vermont. Not that we're all paying equal taxes, it's that we're all paying our fair market values. That's the equality piece. And so property values have been going up for a while in most towns in Vermont. In most cases over the last couple of years, property values have doubled, and therefore taxes go up proportionally as well. To look at this in a different format, in terms of the change in people's annual tax bill on the school side per $100,000 of property value, this is kind of how it breaks down. If you're in Baltimore, right, for every $100,000 of property value you have, your annual school taxes will go up by $110. $50 of that per 100,000 is due to the changes in education. 60 is due to changes in CLA, changes in property values. Right? See, Andover is in good shape. For every $100,000 of value, you're actually going to save $811
Just this year.
Yeah,
We
just
paid
this
in
year.
Last year, right?
Yep.
Right, but your property values, no.
They did.
Yeah. In Chester, right, $280 increase per 100,000 of assessed value. 50 of that's due to education, 230 of it's due to changes in property values. Cavendish, 340. Cavendish gets hit hard this year. Again, $50 of that 340 is due to education. 290 of it is due to changes in property value.
The only thing I can see is I think you should put your due to education, you should put due to the state.
Yeah, it's statewide.
That way, when you're explaining this to people, that's the state, that's not coming through our.
Yeah,
Just
you,
keep pushing that fact because people they don't know that.
you folks, it was this board, if I'm remembering correctly, and I'm pretty sure it was, is that, you had the three options last year in terms of which budget you were going to vote on. And it was funny because it's like, okay, because we were under the excess spending threshold, we could spend this much and get everything we want, and the tax rate's here. We could spend this much and get some of what we want, and the tax rate's here. And we could actually do some cuts and tax rates here. It didn't have really any overall impact on what the tax rate is because the majority of it is controlled by what's happening statewide. So it is really important for people to know that. So while it may not feel good in terms of the dollar amounts, again, the district has been doing its job, and its job is staying under that excess spending threshold while trying to ensure that the kids are getting the best education we can give them. So. Second. Your mission, whether you want to do this or not, is to consider for approval a few things. This budget that we just talked about, this level service budget in the amount of 19.3 million, which is a 3.84% increase. The board has to decide if it wants to accept that or not. If it does accept that, then its board is going to accept the budget warning, right? Because this amount goes into it. And then you also have to consider the annual meeting warning and vote on that. So those are the 3 steps here. So the first step, if the board decides that it wants to, would be approve the budget amount.
On the budget.
Can I just make a comment about this lovely sheet of paper here with 2 green columns? The first green column is the yield divided into the cost per pupil, which is the old way of calculating it. And the second column is the state's new way of calculating it. So your yield is less, it's $8,849. So that makes a higher tax rate because it's lower. And then they take that tax rate and divide it by the average state CLA.
Clear as mud.
In my opinion, it's really to just take away from the fact that the CLA is the problem. It's not the education.
Want to say that louder so everybody can hear you?
It's a Sheldon
Yeah.
calculation. And that's why I show you that I do it 2 different ways and we get the same answer.
They added a term to the formula, which meant that the numbers changed equally for everybody across the state. So what's the purpose of doing that?
Yeah.
The only purpose of doing that was to hide the impact of CLA in a year that the state was pushing redistricting because they wanted people to feel the impact of their property taxes. And assume that it was due to the education system that was causing it.
Well, people in the state are pushing
So
that.
transparent.
They're all
Oh.
clear.
All right.
I know.
So is there Is there any more discussion about the budget number, anything?
I move to approve the budget as presented.
Okay, so for $19,341,977 at a 3.84%.
Absolutely.
Second,
Okay, so Lois has voted or made the motions. Casey?
yes.
Okay. Is there any more discussion? All right, and I think I'm gonna ask for either a voice vote or a show of hands on this. So all in favor?
Aye.
Kate?
That was Katie Murphy and Kate Lanford was reading that.
Okay, all right. So the motion is passed. All right, so it's my favorite part of the year. Love doing this. Okay, so I'm just going to read the warnings and then I'm gonna send them around for the signature, okay? So the legal voters of Green Mountain Unified School District consisting of the towns of Andover, Baltimore, Cavendish, and Chester are hereby warned to meet at the respective polling places on March 3rd, 2026 for the purpose of voting by Australian ballot. The business to be transacted includes the following. Article 1, shall the voters of Green Mountain Unified School District approve the school budget to expend $19,341,997, which is the amount the school board has determined to be necessary for the ensuing fiscal year. The Green Mountain Unified School District estimates that this proposed budget, if approved, will result in a per pupil education spending of $16,060.66, which is a 9.98% higher than per pupil education spending for the current year. Article 2, election of school directors.
We need to approve that.
Motion, who's that?
Nay.
Who's me, Jerry?
Scott and then Jerry.
Scott, Jerry. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so that warning is. All right, second warning is the legal voters of Green Mountain Unified School District consisting of the towns of Andover, Baltimore, Cavendish, and Chester are hereby warned to meet, transact at the time of business, not involving, oh my gosh, not voting by Australian ballot or voting required by law to be by ballot. The businesses to be transacted at the meeting include the following. Article 1, to elect a moderator for 1-year term beginning July 1st, 2026. Article 2, to elect a clerk for 1-year term beginning July 1, 2026. To elect a treasurer for a 1-year term beginning July 1, 2026. Shall the voters of the Green Mountain Unified School District approve setting its annual honorarium for each of its school directors at $1,200? Shall the voters of the Green Mountain Unified School District approve setting its annual honorarium for the treasurer at $750? Shall the voters of the Green Mountain Unified School District approve setting the annual honorarium for its school district clerk at $125? Shall the voters of the Green Mountain Unified School District authorize its Board of School Directors to borrow money pending receipt of payments from member towns as provided in Title 16, Chapter 11, 711 by issuance of notes of money orders payable not later than 1 year from the date for the purchase of paying its expenses. Article 8, to hear and act on the reports of the Green Mountain Unified School District Board of Directors for the school year ending in June 30, 2025. Is that correct? To transact any other business deemed proper when met, not involving an expenditure of school district funds for any other businesses acted upon in the preceding articles. Article 10, to establish a new date for the annual meeting. Is there a motion?
Motion moved.
Scott Casey. So, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Kate and Kate, I'll figure out how to get you to sign that. Katie Murphy, okay.
And
Kate
Rick.
Linker.
Is that
Sounds good.
everybody? Sorry. Watching it. Oh,
Thank you, everybody.
okay. That brings us to old business. Executive limitations, second read of EL 2.7, station and benefits.
Motion moved, accepted.
Second.
Okay. There any discussion?
Yeah, on. So the interpretation, I guess, for the policy preamble, it says compliance with policy is demonstrated when the four specific provisions outlined are fully met. So the enumerated are intended to be non-exhaustive. So by adding that interpretation, it kind of limits the scope of the policy itself.
So where in your policy does it say this is a non-exhaustive?
Further, without limiting the scope of the following, the superintendent shall not.
Takes me a minute to reorient my brain so that.
Yeah, could you, I'm sorry, I was reading through there. Where are we?
I would argue that that's not the intent of policy government. Your job is to communicate policies to me at a level of specificity that guides my interpretations to ensure that they're in the spirit of what you originally intended. So if there are other things in terms of that non-exhaustive list, they need to be enumerated. Because the purpose of this is to outline what I can and can't do. So having things that are nebulous and not communicated is not policy defense.
I think the idea is that it fits the tone, right? They're good, solid examples, and obviously nothing would be held against you that isn't within reason of these examples. I don't think that it's something that would be a hard list. I don't think that's usually what happens in any policy.
So the function then would be to make a motion, okay, to change the policy. As kind of a first read and a first consideration to align it more kind of with the board's thinking.
What are you looking for?
Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't necessarily know that we would add anything. I think the language is there. This is a problem with the interpretation, not the way we wrote the policy.
So with the policy governance, right, my understanding has been, continues to be, the reason they're written in the negative is the shall not, is because we're enumerating the things that the superintendent can't, shouldn't, not allowed to do. And then outside of that scope of whatever the nots are, they have the kind of freedom and creativity to work and accomplish the ends and tasks set forth to them. You know, it's like simple analogy, like can't run on the pool deck. You can get there in any other fashion, right? And what you can't do, figure out how to get there.
That running.
Which I think has been all the other policies we've worked through. So I guess so if there's something specific that you're like, no, this needs to be in there.
Okay, then on provision 2, point out that the language omits what we had put in there, such as promises and implied guarantees.
Provision 2, you're saying.
The
promise-
provision 2, yeah, the interpretation language doesn't, in our policy governance language, we use also that it should not be making promises or implying guarantees. That seems to be, I feel like, omitted from the interpretation.
So from what I see is it's just a restatement of what was said. Right, provision 2, superintendent shall not promise or imply permanent or guaranteed employment. Interpretation, superintendent will not engage in negotiations nor sign contracts with non-unionized employees which provide for permanent employment. I don't see the distinction, but I'm open to understanding. And again, the proper process is if the folks feel that the interpretation is incorrect, the proper process is for the board to tighten up the language of its provision so that I then have to correspondingly go and change the interpretation.
Then the only other concern I had on it was provision 4. In the interpretation, it adds exceptions to the limits that were set, starting with terms extend beyond 1 year without board approval unless it is to provide reasonable, comparable job security for employees, and then references to provision 2.
So let's give an example. Across the state, superintendents, principals, many employees get multi-year contracts. Are you saying that no employee should ever have a multi-year contract?
I'm just speaking of the interpretation of it. Any other matter?
But I'm explaining why the interpretation is what it is. You have another executive limitation that requires the superintendent to do things in terms of salary and benefits and contracts that are comparable to what's happening in the demographics around the state. The demographics around the state often go more than 1 year in terms of a contract. And so that's why that interpretation is written the way that it is. Right? When negotiating, what does it say? Without board approval unless it is to provide reasonable comparable job security for employees. And so that's a direct outtake from a different executive limitation that you placed on me. But again, the proper piece is if there's dissatisfaction with the interpretation, right? If the interpretation is reasonable, that's the first decision to make. Is it reasonable, given what the policy says? If the board feels that it's not, or that it's not in the spirit of what you wanted, the responsibility is to change the provision to make sure that the interpretation language is tightened up. So the step forward would be to, make a motion on how you want that policy language changed.
Which you can't, because there's motion on the table right now.
I'm just finishing reading something. That is correct, that we would need to address the motion on the table, so we can either vote on the motion, can be rescinded, and we can discuss this further, to entertain other motions. What is the, what is it?
Vote on it.
Sorry.
Vote on it.
I stand with my motion.
See what I'm saying?
Just curious again, Donovan, if you had specific additions you wanted to see in here, or just didn't understand and agree with Lane's interpretation.
It's just, I don't agree with the interpretations.
Okay.
For the vote?
Decide to discuss.
I have no further discussion.
Okay, so the motion on the table was to set the interpretation, executive limitations, second read, EL 2.7 compensation benefits. Scott made the motion, Jerry seconded it. All in favor, and we'll use a voice vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Did Kate, were you able to vote?
You haven't called for the nays yet.
I couldn't tell, sorry. All
Oh,
right,
it's okay.
Okay, and those opposed?
Now I can't get off mute. No.
All right, so just to be clear, since we don't have everybody here and online, Katie Murphy was a yay. Jeff Hance, you were a yay.
Yes.
Lois Perla. Scott Kendall, yay. Lisa Sanders is not here for the vote. Casey Leahy.
Yeah.
Jerry Lucy.
Yeah.
Kate Lamfair was a nay. Donovan was a nay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 yeas, 2 nays. Motion passes. All right, new business, communication to constituents regarding school budget impact on tax rates versus common level appraisal.
So this was, one of the functions of the board is, helping kind of communicate to the constituents about the budget. I didn't know if there were specific materials that folks felt would be valuable in that, if you guys are, talking with folks and the budget's coming up, that might help explain it to the people in terms that they can understand in terms of, yeah.
Most question I get asked is where does our money go from Montpelier?
Yeah.
When we send money to Montpelier, which we do in Andover,
Yeah.
where does that money go?
For school, it goes into the education fund, and then it is equally distributed amongst all the districts. Yes.
For the receipt.
So what I'm finding with people is, it's not even so much the local budgets. The increase after increase after increase. People it's not that they don't understand how the education is funded or the funds are spread around. They're just so angry about the continued increases, that I don't think it's gonna matter what you tell them or how it would affect, schools on a local level in your community. They're ready to just vote no to take a stand. Period.
Yeah. Well, I'm in agreement. I've been saying that there's gonna be a catastrophic collapse either this year or next year. Because the taxes, the way things are structured, it's too high. Even with us doing our thing and the little bit of control, people's taxes are just too high. The state itself, like I said, a lot of this, the increases, it's not just the fact that the property values have increased, but with the 3 or 4 laws that the legislature passed, the implementing the weighted values, in terms of what they're paying for students, universal free lunch, things like that. They've added $500 million to the cost of education.
And there's less kids.
In 3 years.
Right.
Yeah.
Every year, there's
Yeah.
less kids.
And so the two things, the two big levers that they've got and the biggest one is legislature stop spending money. Just stop. And the second one is, get the blockades out of the way that are preventing businesses from coming to Vermont. So that, because we're missing out on that whole tax resource, that whole revenue generator.
There's less people to spread the money around.
Yeah, exactly.
I think in regards to communication, I mean, I will echo, I've heard a handful of people, kind of mention and actually say outright that their intention is to vote down the budget to send a message not to us, but to Montpelier.
Correct.
Which is a little concerning, just because I know what that means downstream, but that's what I'm hearing. I will say, and again, I'll also commend you, going to the select board meetings as being very well received. And I think that type of, and continuing with the open forums. I know in the previous years, we've talked about board members going out to like where people are at. But I don't know if there's I don't know if we can invent something that's gonna make this more understandable. The slides are pretty straightforward. So I think it's just continuing with the message, but also us knowing that people are probably just gonna vote it down. Regardless. My concern.
My gut tells me let them out, Holly. No matter what they do, it's likely not gonna pass. My gut is that Chester will pass, but it probably won't be the first one.
It's very close.
Part of the problem is
I see, okay, I'll get you next,
It
sorry.
doesn't matter what your house is worth. It's, you're living in it.
Right.
You know, the value of your house is irrelevant.
Yeah, you don't really, have that well as the liquid.
Right, yeah, right, yeah.
It's, but just, we could probably go
Just doesn't
way too far down. all the way
Yeah.
down. Okay,
I would love some plain language talking points about the way the state, with the way the lovely presentation that you always give, Lane, that is so understandable. I go to try to say it and I'm like fumble over myself because I just haven't done it as many times as you. And so I would love just like a few bullet points and then the numbers so that I can articulate it. I can look at the slides and I still can't pull out what you pull out. That always convinces me, of course, we should have a budget that is what we need. That would be helpful for me.
If I'm hearing correctly, and I appreciate the comments, what Ludlow Mount Holly does is they usually want like a little fact sheet.
Yeah.
Would that serve the purpose, Kate, you think?
That's exactly what I'm talking about. That would be perfect. Thank you.
We even do more. We do like, so social media is a big thing.
Yeah.
Everybody's on social media. So if you were to do a quick little video of the explanation, just like you did, or
Right.
break that one out and send it to all of our emails, so we can send it to our select boards, put it on Facebook, and then everybody can click on it and watch it for whatever that took, 15 minutes.
Right.
TikTok, put it on TikTok.
Yeah,
Lane,
whatever.
Do a TikTok.
So you should be famous by the end of the week.
This is good feedback.
it's also highlighting the thing that I don't think people hear when it's being said. in Service,
Right.
so we're not looking to increase anything.
Yeah, we're not sending. It's not fluff. We're keeping our eyes on them. Exactly. Fixing our boilers,
Yeah, we kept the service flat and the state still increased your taxes.
Yeah.
Because
I think a lot of people
video
know
so
all
far.
this, it's just the
taxes
have
are too
no
high.
options.
Yeah,
They have no
Just too
options.
high. Yeah.
So,
But sadly, that happened the last time all the budgets failed in the
Yeah.
state, We got Act 73, and they threw their hands up and said, that's too hard. Yeah. Let's just keep doing the same thing.
Told people out.
yeah.
Anyway.
Okay, thank you very much. No more of that, committee reports. So we have an update on RVTC.
Yeah, and it feels a little funny to be saying this after we just voted on the budget, but I did want to let folks know RVTC was looking at a small budget. I don't know if I'm using the right word here, Lane. Shortfall, budget deficit, whatever it is. They were $30,000 under, and we were looking at a very small increase to tuition to make that up. And then one of the sending schools is going through some of their own significant budget issues and has pulled out of the RVTC, which left the program with a $200,000 deficit to make up. So the superintendent over there and the budget committee did a phenomenal job, and they found $190,000 in savings without cutting any programs, but they did have to make some significant decisions, but no programs are cut. And so we passed last night in a special meeting a budget that includes a 3% in tuition increase. So for us, the 3% is about a $6,000 annual increase. I'm saying this right, $6,000 annual increase. We also have an increased number of students, so we will actually see a $10,000 increase year over year. And the full-time equivalent tuition, which this year is $20,500, will go up to $21,298. So it'll be about a $10,000 difference in our assessment for this upcoming year.
That,
What do you mean year over year?
so
The last year's tuition, the last year's full-time equivalent tuition was 20,500. This year is 21,298.
Yeah,
That's what I
so
mean.
actually, Kate, that's actually good information and good news because that's a small increase. I don't know what's happened here in the past. But having run a technical center as part of the other district.
Yeah.
You know, if you're sending, 60 kids to the tech center and the tuition for the kids goes up by $2,000 a kid, that can tank a school district's budget.
Yeah.
So if the overall increase is, 3%.
They did a really, really, really good job of not having the impact beyond the sending schools and really being lean and efficient for this next year. It's not sustainable to continue a program with that level of cuts, but with this kind of all of a sudden one school district pulling out and having to find $200,000, I voted yes. I think we should be grateful that it was only 3%.
So it's a 10,000, not 10,000.
The information that I was given from the business manager down there, we budgeted it.
Okay, so we wouldn't have to change a thing.
So the rate that we have, the thing that might change is the FT, the 6-semester average. But sometimes that swings a little bit.
Yeah, that's where they lost me, was the 6-semester average. I was like, what are the actual numbers? And then there's something about it's high, but then the 6-semester average makes it lower. So you know what that means.
I can go into it. It's a pretty easy explanation, but I can connect with you separately for that.
Okay.
So since we budgeted appropriately, is there an ask of the board tonight? Is there anything we need to do?
Perfect.
Easy.
Perfect.
I need to be focusing on trade schools.
Thanks for the info.
Yeah,
They're supposed to be revamping the payment system as part of the Act 173. They're supposed to be getting a lot of TLC. I haven't seen it yet, but.
Okay, so if there's no more committee reports, and I don't think our committees really have been meeting, Katie Donovan, Melissa, is there anything?
No, I was supposed to try to cut down that fourth. And to be honest, I just didn't have time.
Okay, all right, so I'll put
I
it for
will-
maybe next month.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Lane, I would appreciate a printed copy, because it would be a lot easier for me to edit or to try to edit. I know you said it wasn't.
You want to stop by or want us to mail it to you? I actually have one sitting right on my.
I'll pick it up.
Okay. Yeah. I'll try to remember to drop it off with Sydney, so that it's there when you need it, but it's literally sitting on the bureau in my office.
Okay. Thanks.
All right, and then maybe once we get through budget season, we can have the committees at least just kind of reconvene, kind of see where we're at, and then we'll be into the election and it'll change a little bit, I'm sure. But it would be good for us to just kind of get back into that habit. Okay, so that brings us to our next public comment and then board comment. Comments.
Randy, go.
Oh, Randy? And then I see Sandy Russo. I see. Huh? I just see one.
Randy Miles, Chester. Listening to you tonight, budget don't sound bad. It's a lot better than it was last year. My concern is the formula which we have now and whatever the state formula is going to be coming up with. And I think we're at a crisis point now where we don't have enough smart people putting input to this. There's a lot of really intelligent people out there that have some ideas, but they're not willing to get involved or say things. We were talking about putting some information about the budget out and explaining it. That's great. People need to understand it better. Maybe there could also be a little survey put on there. What changes or what would you like to see different about the funding of the budget? You're going to get a lot of real quick useless answers, but you may just get some really smart people out there that have some really good ideas that can be presented. And I think that's a huge difference because I go to a lot of these meetings, town hall meetings and stuff with all different politicians and stuff, and a lot of them are lost. They're not quite sure what to do with it all. So there's a lot of really smart people out there that we have to get information out from, and those can be presented. So that's one of my biggest concerns here. The other thing that I heard was that the amount of your house doesn't matter. It does matter. When you're talking about doubling your value of your house almost instantaneously, when you're on a fixed income, that's a huge impact. So I mean, I understand the budgets and you have to go by what the numbers are. But you're going to get to a point where you're going to drive the people who are on a weekly fixed income out of the state. And that's going to be a very sad thing. I moved here because I love the state. I love where I am, but it's getting crucially critical with the numbers that I'm seeing, not just this year, but the next few years coming. And the lack of really good policies that are being put out there. Oh, that's all I wanted to say. Somehow we've got to touch the media more and get some really good ideas coming in to present to our legislators and to our board as well. There may be ideas that they have, but they don't care to come to these board meetings. But maybe through a question and answer, through a survey, you might get something. Thank you.
Andy Russo?
Hi, yes. I'm on the Cavendish Select Board. So I just want to make a couple of comments about the water that was discussed before. Just so you know, the water that's coming out of the filtration system is clear. Typically, they produce 65,000 gallons a day. With the Christmas holidays and everything, it's up to 135,000 gallons a day, which is a lot. Obviously, it dislodges the sediment. When they do the hydrant flushes, it flushes the sediment out. But now it flushes it into our homes, which we don't like. I live in Proctorsville. The comment made about the $2 million, we're not looking for $2 million. I think we just asked Rick, what would you think it would be if we wanted to replace all our pipes, which would be wonderful. And that was just out of the top of his head. What we're going to, or what Rick suggested, and we all agreed, is that we have to have an engineering study to find the most cost-effective way to solve this problem, either in the short term or long term. So just want to know, we're not asking Cavendish for $2 million, but that's it.
Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there any board comments? All right, so that is going to bring us to an executive session. Oh, I'm sorry, future meetings. So our next regularly scheduled meeting is February 19th, 2026, here at 6 p.m. I kind of kept track of some of the things that we should anticipate. One, some possible numbers from Todd regarding the boilers. A board education update. Actually, seeing Sandy online reminded me you had done an update regarding the library and that dynamic. So I don't know if that could be for next month. Is there anything else anyone is wanting on the agenda for next month? Okay, if there's nothing else, we'll move into executive session. Somebody be willing to read us in. It's on here.
I move that the board find the public discussion of the current state of negotiations with the teachers and the GM support staff will clearly place the board at a disadvantage regarding those negotiations. I move that the board enter executive session with the business manager and the superintendent as is allowed under 1 VSA 313(1)B to discuss the state of labor negotiations with teachers and the GM support staff.
Second.
All in favor? Donovan,
Yeah.
right, and then. Wait, so it was that, and then we have to do this.
Yeah.
Are we inviting anybody?
Should be probably Cheryl.
So, Cheryl, all right, next. Second part.
Move that the board enter into executive session as under 1 VSA 1B. Or update on disciplinary action regarding.
Second.
No, I think, no, I was looking for, there was like, it's a two-part.
Oh, you're reading the second
one, yeah.
The second one.
Oh, well.
I
So you,
think Casey read them both, Adrian.
Did you read? Well,
I think we have to read the first vote and then read the second vote, right?
So what my understanding is we voted on the first part of the executive session now that we've approved that, and then we vote on the second. Sorry.
Okay, want me to read the second?
Would you mind?
Not at all. I move that the board enter executive session with the business manager and the superintendent as is allowed on one VSA 313 line B to discuss the state of labor negotiation with the teachers and the GM support staff.
Second.
Cheap.
All in favor?
Aye.
We'll enter into executive session at 7:35.
Nope. Yeah, you're good to go.
Okay, so we are exiting executive session at 7:52. The board is taking no action. And then if someone would kindly read us into our second executive session.
I move that the board enter into executive session as is allowed in one VSA 3134 for an update on disciplinary action regarding 2 employees.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I think
What?
he's gonna be invited too, though.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, invite, just like, yes.
Yeah.
All right, so inviting Lane. Each. So, all right, so we're in executive. Okay, so we are exiting executive session at 8:11, taking no action. So let's see where they're-
Sure is.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?